Olivia, you need to sit down or you're going to be late. Huh? No, you need to be ready, and you're not ready. Oh, yeah. Okay, so what we're going to do, first half of class.
I know, I just got it yesterday, though. I did like 3 times.
I played, I'd say probably.
I'll get really good at it. I 100% a gun. That's all I'm saying.
I think I probably played 40 hours. Okay, we are going to try to finish up 48 today. That was the one we started on last class. We were not quite able to finish that first period, so I suspect that's probably where we're going to land today as well. I went ahead and gave you assignment 50 also, but there's a good chance we won't get to that. Now, I know I messed up the numbering, so I need you, before you forget, the 2 handouts you picked up on your way in, change them from number 49 to number 50, please. Do that right now before you forget. That was my mistake. I forgot you already had a 49. So we are going to talk about that for a second, practice a few more questions, check as many as we have time for. But once we get to the halfway point in class, I will remind you about semester exam stuff and give you some time to work and ask questions. Okay, so the 2-minute review. With geometric series is you need to know what a geometric series is. It's when you multiply by the same thing each time. I know that sounds rather obvious or easy right now, but honestly what's going to get difficult about series and sequences is there's so many different things that it's not that any one thing is hard, it's just that it compiles up. So when you multiply by the same thing, it's a geometric series. This formula will give you the an infinite summation of a geometric series. So first term divided by 1 minus r. And then we practice that quite a bit of times. If you can find the first term and you can find r, the common ratio, you can do first term divided by 1 minus r, and that tells you, it's like a formula that gives you the infinite sum. So we practice all the way up through, it looks like number 8. So has anyone, and it's fine if you haven't because I didn't tell you you had to go further. I didn't expect you to go further. Does anyone need a couple minutes to finish question 9 before I offer the answer and offer me going over it? Everybody in here has done question 9 already? Okay. All right. Did you all get 125/6? Okay. If you did not, I would be happy to work it out for you, but you need to tell me. Does anybody need to see number 9 worked out? Yes. Okay. All right. So since this is a geometric series, now notice it doesn't say it's geometric, so you should not assume that, especially as we move forward. But you can think about the thing that's being multiplied from here to here, and then that same thing is being multiplied from here to here, and here to here, and here to here. So that thing that's being multiplied each time is the common ratio, and A1 means the first term, and if it's an infinite, means it goes on forever, like these dot 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 mean, just framed differently. If it's infinite geometric series like this one is, your answer comes from this formula. So A1 is 25, R is -1/5. You certainly should and can be able to do this without a calculator. 1 plus a fifth is 6/5. Dividing by 6/5 is the same as multiplying by 5/6, which is where the 125/6 comes from. Okay, for anybody who did not get that for number 9, is there anything more specific there? Okay, then that sounds like about where some people are at, so if you worked past that, that's great. Pick up where you started at or where you left off at. But first, make sure you got an answer of 0.085 on question 10. Let's give everybody a couple minutes, like 2 to 3 at the most, and then I will work out question 10 if you need me to. Again, I don't mind doing all of them. I'm just trying to be efficient with your time. So if everybody gets question 10 right, I don't want to bore you by going over it and wasting your class time. So.
There's one over there.
Oh, it just changes by. What the heck am I doing here? What is this thing on Zoom? Yeah. So if you just put in 0, it should be like 1 anytime 1.
No, it's because you're trying to find the whole system.
It's basically the same game.
But you have to find A's so that
Yeah.
The first term is A. It's to the 0. So it's 8 over 1 subtract 2/3. Which is what 8 over 1/3. Which is 3/8. A over 1.
Oh, I noticed that. Oh.
Okay, time's up. That was almost 4 minutes. So would anyone like me to go over question 10? And yours needs to not be close to this. It needs to be that accurate. AP exam expects you to get within 3 decimal places accurate. So if you rounded halfway through your question instead of storing, then that's what happened. But anybody need to see number 10?
3 is 14.
Okay, then let's give everybody 2 or 3 minutes to work number 11 if you have not. Those of you that have, make sure you got 14/3 before you keep going.
No. I don't know. Yeah, I just don't know. I think it'll work, yeah. It is
It's
14 through 16? Oh, 14 and 16. Okay, well, we're going to get to 14 in a few minutes. And 16 has 4 parts.
Wait, what?
We can do them together.
What's the answer for it?
I might have messed something up.
The first time is 32, so that's like 32.
It is
1 minus
B as in boy.
1 minus R. How much is
Oh, I see what I did.
Wait, how is it possible that it equals 13?
Do you like those? No, I'm talking about the government. Oh.
You know what's weird? Is has two heads. A long time ago, like the new government has two heads, and it's called the board of
Of course, it's got like an AI generated.
No, again, it's funny because if you're efficient, you should only help out. Why would you do
Yeah, it's over.
Yeah.
Everyone's the boss. There's no one.
Okay, it was 4 minutes already, so does anyone need to see number 11 worked out? Anybody not get 14 thirds? Okay, then let me record this one real quick, so if you don't need help with this one, work quietly for a second, please. Okay, so for what value of A does this infinite series equal this? So first off, I recognize this as a geometric sequence, or geometric series, I should say. But if you don't see that, if you can't recognize this pattern yet, again, it never hurts to just plug this in, get your first value, then plug in the next one, which would be 1, to get the next value. Plug in the next one here, which would be when n is 2. Oops, this would be A. Okay, and if you're willing to ... that goes on forever because it goes to infinity. If you're willing to do that, then you can see the first term is A, and it's a lot easier to see, although I can see it right here, because as n increases, that changes how many times you multiply by 2/3. So the common ratio is 2/3, but maybe a little easier to see there. And so if I take the formula A1 divided by 1 minus R, and it's supposed to equal 14, then this is the equation that I use to get this as an answer. This would be A over 1/3 equals 14. Multiply both sides by 1/3. And that's where 14/3 came from. So I worked it out the same way as I worked the other questions. It was just different information provided to you. Normally this is a number and this is what you're trying to find. But with this formula, if you can seek out the first term, even though it's not a number, and you can seek out the common ratio, you can throw it in that formula, and that gives you an equation to solve for what A represents in this case. Okay. Is that enough for everybody that asked about 11? Okay. Question 12. I got an answer of 12. So, let's give everybody 2 minutes before we can see if that's the answer or not. Or let's see if you need to work it out.
I guess you could do like 1/4 or 1/4 times.
You can technically, I mean,
If it's a geometric series, then it has to have pattern. So it would just be like, it's like 24 divided by 6 equals 4. So it's just like R equals 1/4 divided by 6. Times 2. Yeah.
like, dude, it's so decent.
Thank you for
Just be like half.
Because I didn't use it, so yeah, that kind of like it's hard.
Why has a higher
When it doesn't, it has to
decrease value?
no, it doesn't have to convert.
Decrease like a 0.
Have you worked?
It's like a 0 between y and 1. X over 1, y over 1. X is bigger. Y is bigger.
It would be divided by half. So you would multiply by 2.
Okay, that was already 2 minutes. So we did have a little bit of debate about this question first period. I and the answer guide, so the people who made up this worksheet, who made practice, said that it could be 12 or negative 12. But I think first period we decided that maybe we should only keep this one. Any idea why we should only keep the 12 and not the negative 12?
It's greater than 0.
Right, they're saying that they really are implying that they just want the second term where a sub n is greater than 0 and negative 12 was not greater than 0. Okay, does anyone need to see why these two could be second terms in that? Does anyone want to see an algebraic way to do it so you're not just guessing and checking in your head?
Yeah.
Okay, so just kind of make a spot here. The first term is 24. I don't know the second term, and the third term is 6, right? So I know most of you probably just guessed and checked what could I multiply by 24 to get this, that if I multiply it again I get r. But why don't you just write that as an equation? From here to here I'm multiplying by r, And from here to here, I'm multiplying by r. So if I start off with 24 and I multiply it by r squared, what should that be equal to? 6. And so if you say, okay, I'm going to multiply this by r and multiply this by r, or multiply by r squared, it gives you an equation that you can solve. So you can figure out what r is, and if r is a half, times by half, times by half, and then that makes sense. So again, I know those numbers were probably where you don't have to start to set up an equation, but you could write an equation to solve that. And again, this could be negative 12, but based on this highlighted part of the directions, I think they really meant to only ask for the positive answer. The reason, now if this had been negative 12, where should that have shown up in my work? Or how am I supposed to know that negative 12 was a possibility? Very good. So right here, technically, algebraically, when you take the square root of both sides, you need to do plus or minus. So the common ratio could be multiplying by positive 1/2 each time or negative 1/2 each time. So that's one benefit for doing it algebraically instead of just guessing and checking in your head. Because it could be times negative 1/2 times negative 1/2, and their stuff would still be true. Okay, good enough for that? All right, take a couple minutes and finish number 13 if you haven't. We're aiming for 1/28. All right, we're going to spend just about 20 more minutes total on this worksheet, and then finished or not, we'll put it aside and move on to semester exam reviews for us.
See how it works. Because this tells you. Since it gives you a this actually shows you because it's 1/4. A of n plus 1. So like a of n plus 1, right? It has to be 1/4 of to be able
Yeah.
Oh,
So to be able to be
my timer didn't start.
to be able to simplify down to 1/4, a of n plus 1, a of n plus 1 has to be 1/4 of a. So then you've got your a1 and your r. So you can do the remainder to
Or you could say he's really good. You like Wait.
Oh, I understand what you're saying. Okay, now that makes sense. Just take the second to see. Yeah,
How do you find a balance here?
it is kind of weird. Is it
By setting r equal to 0 and solving. Okay. So like that.
If that's one of the bounds, what's the other one?
Okay, well, you got to think about, on the unit circle, sign values relate to what? The x values, the y values.
Why?
Okay, so this one, this angle that you got here is at about 1 radian, so I don't know, right about here. Okay. Sines the y value. So over here, where y is equal, has the same y value.
Plus pi? No.
Now you would do all of this, which would be pi, and then subtract however much this one was.
Ah, okay.
So like that. Pi minus whatever that is.
Okay.
That one's pretty tricky.
Thank you.
Okay, here's my chance, or here's your chance to see number 13 worked out. Anybody not see how to get 1/28 That's a yes, you did get it, or yes, you did not get it. Yes, you did not get it. So that means I don't need to work it out? Oh, okay. I will work it out. So this one's actually not bad at all. So it's a geometric series. So we've got this formula that we are basically living and dying by. Okay, they gave you the first term already. It's 32. So the last real mystery to this question is, what is R? So let me focus in on this here. How does A sub n plus 1 compare to A sub n? Like, what's the relationship between these two?
It's the first ratio.
It's a ratio because they're being divided, sure. But I'm saying, like, what's the difference between the A sub n term and the A sub n plus 1 term?
L1 plus times R.
So, right, so whatever term this is the next term, right? They're adding 1 to this. If this is the 5th term, this would be A sub 5, this would be A sub 6. So if you take this term and divide the previous term, what does that give you? That's a long-winded way to say the common ratio. If you take, because notice, if this is a, I don't know, let's do 40, 10, okay, let's just pretend like these are part of our sequence. If I take A sub n plus 1 and divide it by the term before it, A sub n, then when I divide those, you can see that that is R, which is the same thing as 1/4, multiplying by 1/4. So you really just need to know how to read this. Any term divided by its previous term is another way to say the common ratio. So that's 1/4, which means this is 3/4. 32 divided by 3/4 is the same as 32 times 4/3, which is where that answer came from. So if you didn't see that, that's fine, but you might want to write a couple words about, explain it to yourself in a way that you'll remember that that's supposed to be R. Okay, couple more minutes, and then we need to check to see if everyone got 2/9 for number 14.
You read it 2 cents, so just the ratio, the R, this is the first term, and then this is R. Makes sense what they see, but they didn't know what to do
I already had all mine this week. You can go. No, I didn't study it all. I thought I'd get like a B, but I ended up getting a 95, which I'm super happy about. I just got lucky. You know what I You're $5 off.
That's actually pretty good.
I guess she's a good one. Just like the cute. Patrick, you look.
Yes.
This one? What, how do you got 0.99? It's the same thing.
It literally says the right charge is positive in the prompt.
I think
It's not the same thing. Before we were looking at an angle like this, and so the other spot was here. So if this angle is at theta, this is at pi minus theta. On this question, it looks like your theta's here.
Yeah.
So your other one that had the same sign is directly across, same y value. So you wouldn't do pi minus that, huh?
2 pi minus.
2 pi minus
Uh-huh.
to find this one.
Uh-huh. Because it's...
If you do 2 pi minus this angle, you're just going to get this little piece. And that's nowhere near that. This one, you should take this angle, or what I would do is find this, so the positive version of that. So I'd start off with pi to get from here to here, and then add this length, which is the same as that length. Okay. Anybody would like to see number 14 worked out? Yes? Okay. So first thing I'd recommend on 14 is to write out 0.2 repeating. So we want to write that as a summation. We want it to be something plus something plus something plus something, and we want it to be geometric. So the somethings need to be multiplied by the same thing each time. So I started off with 0. Okay, well first off, y'all remember what this little bar means, right?
Yeah.
Okay. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, da da da, forever. Okay, so I rewrote this as 0.2 plus, so that gets this. What could I add to that to get the next decimal? 0.02, correct? That gives me this one. And then to get the third one, I could add 0.002. Now, at some point, you know, writing out 12 terms is not going to be any better than writing out one. So I would say, here's my first term, A1, and I'm going to write it as a fraction instead. 2/10 or 1/5. Divide by 1 minus r. And since I've written out the first couple terms and I can see that this would work to give me 0.2 repeating, what do I have to multiply 0.2 by to make it become 0.02? Good. 1/10. And then if you multiply by 1/10 again, you get this term. If you multiply by 1/10 again, multiplying by 1/10 is the same as dividing by 10. Dividing by 10 is the same as moving the decimal. So once you get that, Now your answer comes from 1/5 divided by, this would be 9/10. Dividing by 9/10 is the same as multiplying by 10/9, which gives you 10 over 45, which reduces to 2/9. So you have to make yourself write out what 0.2 repeating looks like. Write it as a term, any first term that you want to, but your second term needs to come from multiplying something by your first term. And your third term has to come from multiplying the same thing by your second term. So the way I did it, this is my first term, 1/5. My common ratio was 1/10, and then I plugged it into this formula for about the 20th time. First term divided by 1 minus r will get you an infinite, which means it goes on forever like this does, infinite geometric series. Okay, anything else about 14 while it's still up there? Okay, there's a good chance for question 15 you need to look back on the front page for the notes about when these converge versus diverge, but let me give you a few minutes. B is the correct answer, so we'll talk about it after about 4 minutes. So please give it a shot and be done in the next 4 minutes if you haven't already.
So, I'm trying to find out how to type this, but this, there's no way this is true.
We have to record a video on Tuesday.
You take the curve and
Yeah.
how is this true? Is it saying like 1 over 1? Like it's like x is equal to this.
Probably will then.
Wait, how many words are
Yeah. You just do it, spam it over.
You're checking out early again today?
Yeah. Like, actually,
I didn't lie to you last time. I told
I
you.
know. I believe you. And I knew you did not.
I just got it wrong before.
Let's see, what they say, 10, 15 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
Why are all my tabs?
You can take that to your desk if you'd like.
No, I just do it here real quick. Oh, shoot.
Because Chrome sucks. No, Firefox sucks as well. My site's still
Yeah, Firefox doesn't.
I hate Chrome. I just don't like it. It's not customizable. The volume. You can customize the tab placement. You can make every site dark mode.
You do that in Chrome too, just use extensions.
I hate Chrome. I can put my tabs on the side. Don't have the front. Use that. No, it's
Do you ever play that girl? Yeah. You're very good at it. I'm not gonna argue it. I know 20. Yeah.
This is such a weird
I'm trying to see what.
Are we turning in 48?
I don't.
Kylie, you choose?
The other one.
Tyler?
You don't have to write. Just call it the city. Just call it Tyler. You forget his name? Oh, yeah.
That's a different one.
Oh, what? What is new album song? You forget his name.
Just you. So 1, 2, 3.
3, please. I need to save up some.
I'll just get it for free, bro. Some of the I'll get you some of the characters.
Oh, that Indian one?
Okay, last one from this before we shift gears here. So I'm assuming there's at least one person that needs to see this worked out.
Hey, don't mind me.
Okay. So question 15, if x and y are positive real numbers, which one would make this be a geometric series that converges? All right, well, what has to be true for it to converge if it's a geometric series? It's not just r is less than 1, but the absolute value of r has to be less than 1. So when we write these, what's always consistent about a geometric series is you should have something, something, something to the n power, because this is what's being raised. So as n gets bigger, this is what you keep multiplying by more and more by. So r is the base of the exponent. So when you look at this, it's not written that way for you, but you could split these two apart. This is like x to the n times x to the first. You're just used to going the other direction. Multiplying things with the same base, you add the exponents, but consider splitting them apart. Same with this. Adding exponents is the same as multiplying things with the same base is the same as adding the exponents. So again, you're used to going this way, just like when you do x times x is x squared, but now we're splitting them apart. The reason why you might split them apart is both of these have an exponent of n, and this would be x over y squared. So x over y squared is what r is in this question. And to converge, if you need r to be less than 1, if it's equal to 1 or greater than 1, it will diverge. If it's if the absolute value it's less than 1, it converges. And then you can multiply both sides by y squared, and then that's where answer B comes from. So definitely harder because it's not numbers there, but make sure that you know absolute value of r is less than 1 is when it converges. If absolute value of r is equal to 1 or greater than 1, that's when it would diverge. And then you need to play with this / rewrite this enough that you can see what r is going to be. Is that enough? Yeah. B and C are the inequality signs pointing differently. Our answer should be x is less than x squared. This is saying x is greater than x squared. They're not the same because the inequality is pointing in the other direction. So. Huh? Oh, I mean, yeah, technically the absolute value's in play, but that doesn't, it didn't matter here. Okay, so we got to the same place first period did, which kind of makes sense. Okay, so second half of class. Again, if you would like to do more on this assignment, if you want to try to finish this up, that's great. I'm not discouraging you from that. I just don't expect you to do any more on number 48. I don't expect you to do any parts of 50. 50 is actually really easy, and so I was hoping we'd have a few minutes to do that. But that's okay. We can get to it next class. Just make sure that you've renumbered it from 49 to 50 so that you know what I'm talking about when we get there. So what I would do if I was you to prepare for the final, this is the same information, I'll say it each day till we get there. 45 is when you did the first review. 49 is the one I suggested doing as a practice test to see where you stand, what question types need more practice, etc., etc. But I've not picked up 49 yet, so I will. I'll give you some points for that, just not today. But if you're not finished with 49, then that should probably be your top priority. If you are finished with 49, you might retry the questions you missed the first time to make sure that you can do them now. If there's some formula or some process or something that you know you're going to have to re-practice or restudy before the final, then now's as good a time as any. There's no point in waiting. I think I mentioned for the final, it'll be somewhere between 30 and 40 points, probably closer to 30. And while that may not sound like a lot, again, your grade's based on percentage. So your other quizzes that we've had this semester weren't a ton of points, so 30 is still quite a bit for that. So that grade does go in. You need to study, you need to do the best that you can. And of course, not only should you guys be trying to review that stuff for the short-term goal of doing well on the final and for your grade, but if you really understand the Unit 9 stuff really well, that's almost half of the new BC content on your AP exam. So when we get to reviewing for their AP exam exclusively, if you really know this stuff, that's that many more skills that you won't have to relearn and repractice a bunch. So let me say that. But I will also let the semester test count as a grade replacement if it helps you. I wouldn't do a grade replacement if it hurts you. So if your lowest quiz grade was an 80, but you make an 85 on the final, you'll get an 85 on the final, and I can change that previous 80 quiz score to an 85. So just a little more incentive to study as much as possible. Yes, sir.
So if you get lower, it will just hurt your grade?
Okay, so if your lowest quiz grade was an 85 and you make an 80 on the final, you get an 80 on the final. You still get that test grade, but I wouldn't change your 85 to an 80. I'm not going to lower a pass grade, but your grade could still drop because you still have to take the semester exam grade. So if I don't do that, then everyone that has an A just won't study. So. All right, so I think that's all I had to say about that, but do y'all have any questions about the final? What it's going to be over, how it's going to count, when it's going to be, any of that stuff? Yeah.
What do you expect the length will be?
All semester exam sessions this year are normal class time.
Yeah, but like the test itself.
What about it?
Good question.
Like, how many FRQs do you expect?
The number of questions is irrelevant because I could give you 50 short questions or I could give you 3 long questions. So telling you the number of questions doesn't help you.
Wait, will we have an FRQ?
There could be FRQ on there, yes.
Could be.
Huh?
You said could be.
Yeah, why not? FRQ is no different than like your review. You could just say the first 4 questions are 4 parts of an FRQ. So if you're asking is the whole thing multiple choice, no, I would not expect the whole thing to be multiple choice. But I'm narrowing it down to just Unit 9 topics for you. So none of the integration by parts, no separation of variables, no improper integrals, none of the A-B stuff that we had squeezed in and practiced already. Just Unit 9 stuff
Just parametric and polar.
and vectors. Everything that shows up on assignment 45 and 49 would be good topics and good question types for the test. Okay, obviously I will help you with that if you need it, but the last thing I want to say up on the board, just with this meme, just because y'all can understand a little bit better now, what is true about all of those values in the meme? Okay, they're all 1/2. This one, what is this?
It's
How do you know this equals 1/2 is my question.
it's like a third over one.
Huh?
Third over 2 is 1 over 2/3.
Which is? So it's a geometric series. So if you took the first term divided by 1 minus r, you would get what this infinite series is, and it's just a different way to add it. It's a different way to get to 1/2. But now that you know that, now that you should be able to figure out that equals 1/2, I just showing you that. So I guess you should probably be able to do that one too, but that's a little excessive. Okay, let me know when and where I can help, please, with the semester exam review.
So we're not going what's your work here? Wait, Psychonauts is $10. Oh, Fallout's $10. Fallout 3 is $10. Fallout 2 is also $10. Fallout 1 is also $10.
Is that what you do?
Is there a bundle? New Vegas is also $10. Why are they all $10?
What did you say?
Ultimate bundle. New Vegas Ultimate is all the DLC that's nice. Franchise bundle is what the 76. But that comes with 76 and 4. So I believe that's where most of the prices go.
If I already have it.
The Ultimate bundle for New Vegas is Why?
Wait, I did this.
Well, but it does say X and Y.
What does it do?
It's the same thing, but you only pay $2 a day.
Really?
So
Jeez.
And you get the type of still service as well.
Isn't that
whether that's positive or negative.
He's not understanding. It's okay. He's only one person. One person is not going.
Bottom up kettlebell.
That is a beauty.
You ever hit one of those?
Patty definitely plays. Patty doesn't have any.
I don't have any more.
That's why it's like.
Alright, time to do this. I'm going to die.
It's the kind of that. I don't want to take that.
Titanic planes. Oh, this is just the first one. I suppose.
Actually,
It's a horrible
Like less
spawn.
than the population. Just so you know.
Oh, wait, no. Yeah. It's a horrible spawn. No chests. No chests. Pod spawn.
the pot spawns in every pot.
This isn't the same area.
No, it's a different map. I think there's like 3 or 4 stations.
This map is kind of. What did sun wear?
They give you crit rate.
Oh, wait, I gotta get that one. Jet.
You just want to
Projection. That's
Yeah.
I got like 4 of those. out of a 3 to 3.
Whatever sign relates to the y values on the anywhere else
do you-
is the same, where y is the same.
That's pretty bad.
So if you know,
It's like just the
Why are there like so many?
all of this pi plus
I mean, every time I gotta grab it, I should grab it.
Flash grenade gives the text chance to stun.
Is that good?
That depends.
So do I want you to do this?
No, Kajobi did.
Oh, sure. So for polar, there's a formula for y. Y is equal to,
R sine theta.
okay. So this does times sine theta. So I would just put sine in the numerator. Okay, and then when does that equal -1?
Yeah, that's.
So you just
So 5 sine theta divided by 3 minus sine theta equals -1.
Stack those.
So equivalent, multiply both sides by 0 minus sine theta.
Huntress benefits
And then I
from
think-
higher tax base.
The ratios have to be what you remember.
You read my higher mobility associated with Huntress because it would affect the tax trends.
Let me know.
Makes it easier to resist. Yeah.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Especially if you double that with, I think there's a robot or green rarity.
What does your program do?
It makes you have higher switching.
Is that Python? Did you have like limitations on how to do that? I mean, because to me, to get time numbers, I could just say, I'm on, I could do them in order to say, okay, number 301, can I divide it by 2? Can I divide it by 3? Can I divide it by 4? I mean, that's very inefficient. There's much more to it.
There's something going on.
That would be over the square, which is way over the price complexity that you would have to have for it to be higher.
Okay, so you got
Yeah.
Why do you have such a
You have like a time, so if it goes over like, this one is a little one. That's like 5.
then you have a hard computer. Just overclock your computer.
I found it horrible.
Are you done studying for the semester exam?
Oh, I will.
What are you playing?
Okay, you better hope that you ace it,
What if
because.
you play? What if we play Dota? Will you excuse me?
No.
It's free to play. I can download it right now.
No. I would not encourage anyone to start playing Dota.
That's probably
They go to Dota.
Yeah, okay.